All right, well, I see a few familiar faces from our rallies last week, and so I think actually the first thing I want to do is to thank you guys for coming out. We don't have the 600 people or so that we did have earlier in the week, but it's still a pretty good crowd, and I appreciate that. Now, the other thing I noticed that's different than earlier in the week is everybody's sign out here is spelled correctly. We were at that across the street from that Tea Party rally, and well, they couldn't spell governor, and one of them had a picture of, you know, some butt crack on it, and that was about as intellectual as they got. And I heard somebody say that our group was the same size as the Tea Party, even though they bust them up. That wasn't correct, though. Our group was larger, probably twice as large, right? And if you go back on the internet and find some of the things out there about the rally, you can see those pictures and verify it for yourself. That gives me an intro as to what I want to talk to you about today. We created a website in a group called Florida Teachers for Education. This is not my first time to this battle. All right, when I was Teacher of the Year for Leon County back in 1997, I worked with then Governor Lawton Childs, who has been a great loss to us politically here, that he's no longer around. And we can find me actually testifying before a committee. At that time, John Thrasher was Speaker of the House, and they were trying to ram it all through. Under Childs, we were able to defeat that. Of course, a couple of years later, Jeb came back, and unfortunately, we were able to beat them again, but this time through the courts. So I don't want to hear some of the things that I heard earlier, people talking about maybe we can't do this or maybe we'll have to change this back. We will do this. Last thing I want to talk to you a little bit about is how we fight them. Okay? The one way to fight these people is to spread the truth. Every time you hear a lie on Fox News or by a Tea Party group or whatever, go immediately and post something counter to that and let them know that there's a truth out there and it's not what they're telling you. These people, the Tea Party people, I would almost consider them traitors because they will do anything, tell you anything to get their way. And I've observed this firsthand. All right, let's take a look at some of the things that we've been told by the governor and the House of Representatives and the Senate, and a few facts that you can take to them and refute what they're having to say. All right, first off, there's no money in the state, but Rick Scott just spent $300,000 or $400,000 on out-of-state experts. Maybe you've heard of Michelle Reed. Or normally speaking, it's about $10,000 a speech. So whether it's made publicly or not, she's going to get paid. She also represents for-profit schools, and a corporation that she heads hires out teachers as day labor. We don't want to go that way, all right? And so, number one, there is money. If you're going to spend $300,000 on out-of-state experts, there's money. Plank 2, or idea 2, the FCAT. How many people consider the FCAT to be child abuse? And ask some of the students. It's somebody that nobody's asked about this, but it really is. And if you think about it, the bigger tragedy with the FCAT is the cost. Were you aware the state of Florida spent over $250 million for last year's late test results?
Wow.
According to the research that my group's done, $250 million would be enough to give every teacher in the state a 5% raise. So that's the second lie that you can bust them on. All right, the third lie. They've been up here telling us there's no other way than the Senate Bill 736. There's no other way than to kill the collective bargaining. Baloney. There's plenty of ways. If you've taken a look at Rick Scott's budget, you can see the math right there in front of you. We have $1.2 billion that was taken from education or juvenile justice or any of the other social programs and added back to healthcare administration. Well, if you know what Mr. Scott did as his last profession, and you know about the state, you know that all of that money will go to private contractors. And hopefully our group will expose some of that when they get to the point where they are actually rewarding those contracts. So keep a look out for that on our website. All right, the next thing, there's plenty of things that could be cut at the schools besides the teachers and the staffs. All right, if you take a look at some of the county items like health insurance that is not well received, that they didn't negotiate for, you can cut those costs by getting a better contract. All right, county offices often have palatial buildings. We don't need buildings that wonderful for our county offices. Let's put the money back in the schools. Again, we're busting a Tea Party lie, a Rick Scott lie. There is money. Now, one of the justifications that we've heard for everything that's been going on is that Florida's teachers have some problems, or maybe there's something wrong with our teachers, or we need to punish the teachers because they didn't all vote Republican. Well, if they had, I'd have kind of been worried, but you know, that's how it goes, right? We already have an evaluation system, and we are ranked 5th in the nation by Education Week for this year. A fact that was on the Department of Education website until they started rolling these bills out in the big building over here behind me. All right, but you can look that up when you get home on the internet. Education Week, Florida ranks 5th in the nation. That's 5th in schools and 5th in teachers. There was no need for any of this legislation. Another thing that they haven't told us, and that we haven't even noticed, is there is a critical teacher shortage in Florida in all areas. We don't need to be punishing the teachers. We need to be hiring some new ones and paying them a little bit better, because, you know, according to the studies that have been done around the state, particularly recently, a teacher's salary is not luxury like some of these folks have been telling us. This all comes back to the things that you can do. When you hear one of those laws, speak up. And the last thing I'm going to ask you to do is, most of you are not aware, but all of us have access to that building back there. Okay? We've got a website called FloridaTeachersForEducation.com. It tells you step by step how to make appointments and go in there and sit down with those people. I know that everybody thinks somebody else is going to write a letter or make a visit, but it doesn't really happen. When I'm up there in the Capitol working on these issues, the place is just about empty. There's me, there's the representatives, there's a few reporters, and there's a bunch of people wearing $3,000 or $4,000 suits. And you can see some of this in those committee reports that coming up and whatever. But don't give up hope. Reach out and tell the truth, and let's change this back to something that Florida can live with. Thank you.